Hello and welcome to this episode of the Adventures of the Windswift. Well, as you can see, I am joined by a veritable army of players today as we kick off our first round of auditions for the roles, the new roles that will be on the ship and in Adventures moving forward. So without any more talking from me, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and their characters to you. So we're going to use our Dice of Destiny, which has now definitely changed shape from the last one, and we'll see. So launching us off is Con. Wait a minute, we know who you are. So skipping on, Jean, will you please introduce us to Maris?
Hello, my name is Maris. I'm a bard, gnome from birth, and I love the history of this kingdom. And I would love to make the dragon not happier because they have been like, you know, really naughty and stuff.
Give us a brief description of him. What does he look like? He's a gnome?
Yeah, so it's really short and really thin. It's like, you can see it's kind of a weak character and not wearing a lot of heavy stuff, like a nice leather jacket and small pants. That's all.
Yep.
It's kind of, and he's always bring his loot with him. So, yeah.
Lovely, lovely. All right, Tobias, you're up next.
Well, my character is an elven mystic by the name of Jorek of Chaltana. He's rather slim, he's an elf, and he's wearing a red nobleman's tunic, basically, a cape, pants, your regular clothing. What sticks out is the face veil he's wearing across his nose and mouth. And mystics are known for being quirky, having a lot of mental issues. All these psionics powers don't come for free. So basically, he has this problem where his soul will leak out of his mouth and nose if he's not wearing the veil, or so he believes. So Jorek is young for an elf. He's had a rather troubled life, and he has a little problem accepting others' authorities and thinking that others might know better than him. So he's a bit of an arrogant asshole, but hopefully he'll improve with time. That would be Jorek.
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. Sophie.
Hi, I'm Sekhet-Hotep-Et. And I'm going to be playing a Sekhet elf who is a sorcerer, who is also quite young, who lost both of her parents when she was very young and her uncle in her mid-teens. So she's going to be quite a nervous, insecure person who's not really understanding where her magic is coming from. She's got black eyes, tanned olive skin, and white blonde hair. And she's quite tall at about 1.70 m, but only 58 kilos, so very slim as well. And she's on a bit of a mission to complete her uncle's research and studies into what's going on with her, really, but she hasn't realized that yet.
Lovely. There we go. And then Sebastian.
Best for last. I am Dorskiv of the fallen house of Kazakul. Many things have happened to me, and I do not wish to speak of them. Dorskiv is a small little dwarf, and if there was an example of concentrated ugly, he would be that. He's got many scars, and he rarely wears a shirt because he's a barbarian. So he's kind of one of those characters who's gone through some terrible things and he's kind of given up and taken up the barbarian thing, not as a way to really get rid of evil, but kind of a way to get rid of himself in a way.
That's interesting. Okay. What was the color of his beard?
He's orange.
All right. Perfect. And that brings us to, yes, Con and Blackstone, of course. And if you've been watching the Windswift, you know their antics. And our adventure starts with our young crew here. Blackston and Con have retrieved the Windswift and have been tasked by the Academy because of recent events where there were so many unfortunate losses from the ranks of the Orders of Histari and the Anchors, and of course as well the Octrelicar, with teaching up, with training the new recruits that are coming through. And so the two of them have unfortunately found themselves at the direct request of the Archon to playing host to four rather green behind the ears individuals who have shown some promise as being captains in their own right, but who might need a little bit of a guiding hand. And so that is where Con and Blackston, you find yourselves. Mutaru has been requested to remain back at the Academy. He has some issues that he needs to deal with. Hence, it's just the two of you. But Lieutenant Tai has informed you that the ship is ready and that the four captains are on board. You're tasked this afternoon with doing just a little quick nip around the area. The Academy, of course, the mountain ranges that are nearby for you to have a look at are mountain ranges that you're not too unfamiliar with. It's the Gamspire and, of course, the mountain ranges that stretch out from that as well. It's quite spectacular. So the Academy thought that that would be a good training option for the young captains to have a look at. Captains, you, the four of you, joined the Windswift this morning. You've got some gear with you for basically 3 or 4 days worth of life on board the ship. And you've been instructed to observe Captain Blackston and Captain Con as they go about a routine patrol of the area around Dwaslan Border, which is an independent city-state just to the west of the Gamspire itself. The Academy instructors have told all of you that they believe in you, that you are the next generation of captains who will protect the world from the scourge of the dragons. And yes, don't irritate Captain Blackston. And if you get ill, Dr. Con will keep you alive. But if you get ill on purpose or if you injure yourself purposefully, he will probably kill you. So best to avoid that. And yeah, with that, the ship is sailing. Lieutenant Tai is at the helm. Captains, you find yourselves on deck with Captain Blackston and Captain Con. I would ask, because there's so many of us, if you can all roll initiative for me, please.
10.
All right.
13.
So we'll work for this. We'll work through this. So let's start with Jorek.
12.
Jorek, that's you, Tobias. What was your initiative?
Yes. 13.
13. Dorskiv.
10.
Maris.
10.
10 as well.
Yeah.
Sekhet-Hotep-Et.
12.
12. Blackston.
13.
13. Con.
15.
15. And me on that. All right. Lovely. Thank you. Because we're such a large group, that's the order that I'm going to work through. Con, what are you busy doing?
Well, if Ty is at the helm at the moment, I guess we've just met our new recruits. I've probably given a side-on glance at Blackston along the lines of, we just saved the orders from annihilation from within, and Mutaru gets a holiday, and we get training duty. How did this happen?
Well, we are now the veteran captains with but one mission under our belt.
Yes, but it was a very important one. We should at least give ourselves that much.
Sure.
Welcome aboard the Windswift. As you no doubt have heard, the ship has been through some pretty rigorous adventures recently, so part of this mission is obviously a routine patrol, but also we need to make sure that all of her repairs have been properly completed. As such, you've all had your sailor training at the Academy. I expect you all to be aware of the ship and its condition as you move about.
All right. And of course, yes, he speaks of the training that you have all had on board the ship. So you know what a yard arm is and what the bow and stern and port and starboard are. That's been part of your many years of training. It's at that point that Sekhet-Hotep-Et, who is a Sekhet elf, a young man, comes rushing up to the group of you and very quietly looks at you, Blackston, and asks, might I have a moment, sir? He pulls you aside and very, very quietly says, I think we are about to run into a pod of skywills. Should I inform Lieutenant Pai to change course, or would you want to take the cadets past these creatures?
I think we can show him the ropes.
I understand, sir, he says, and goes scurrying back to Lieutenant Tai. All of you can see young Naxun chatting to Lieutenant Tai very, very quietly, and you all hear her saying, what? Oh. And then sort of begrudgingly she takes the wheel. The entire deck of the ship starts to shift, and you feel your weight shifting with it as sails are unfurled and opened up by the various deckhands running around, and the ship's course starts to alter. So the magnificent panorama of the mountains to the south, the great Kush Mountains that stretch out in all directions, starts to shift around, and the great big Gam spire looms up in front of you. Now, several miles beyond that is the city of Dwaslan border, which ultimately is where the ship will approach, turn around, and then go back to the academy. And if necessary, Con and Blackston can disembark and just make sure that everything is hunky-dory within that city. Right.
It's good to be airborne again.
No.
Sekhet-Hotep-Et, are you doing anything?
I'm looking around the ship, sort of touching things here and there, trying to work out what they do. It's my first time on such a thing.
Right, absolutely. And of course, first time on a one that's in the air. At the academy, you've obviously had lots and lots of diagrams and things, but to actually feel the tug of the wind on the ropes is quite a different experience. Absolutely. Moving along, Jorek.
Well, Jorek actually enjoys this pretty much. He stands at the railing looking out over the Gam Spire and just letting the wind blow past his hair and all that. It's his first time in the air, and he's been on a boat or an airship, but this is a moment where he just enjoys the moment, more or less. Kind of forgets about the whole, I'm here to learn something, but he enjoys the moment.
Lovely. Dorskiv.
Dorskiv asks, permission to walk about freely to the captain.
You're supposed to be a captain, Captain.
All right, thank you. And he goes over to the railing and stares at the mountains because he's never seen his homeland perceived in such a way. And one might think he actually kind of sniffles a bit, but might have just been some humidity going through the air.
Just the wind, eh?
It's just the wind. Just the wind. Maris?
Maris is pretty amazed by this new experience. So he pull out some sheets of paper and try to write a song about what he's feeling, hoping the wind doesn't blow up the paper while he's writing.
Right, absolutely. As you are all taking in the sights of the ship, the creaking noises, the wind, Con, Blackston, you probably seeing these youngsters do what you pretty much did the first time you were on board a ship at a mile above the surface of the planet. You notice on the horizon these dark shapes starting to loom out of the clouds. They're easily 100, 120 foot in length, and they're just slowly gliding through the air, and you can see that clouds are rippling off of these large fins. 4 very large fins stick out from either side of these creatures, with these long tails that split apart into about 9 or 10 smaller tails, which just slowly, almost rhythmically beat the air. And this low rumbling sound, almost like thunder, but a little bit more lyrical, starts to precede them as they're coming towards the ship. From the very top of the mast, a young boy shouts out, "We got sky whales, sir!"
Any of the recruits done their helm training?
Yeah, aye.
Good. Jorek, take the wheel.
And Archicon,
Yes, sir.
now, try not to sink her, on your first trip.
So,
I hover nearby.
yeah, Jorek has had very basic helm training. That is none, almost. So, yeah, he walks up to the helm and, what am I getting myself into? And takes the helm.
Lieutenant Ty steps back, her hair very neat and proper. She looks you up and down. She looks at you, Captain Con. And then she also hovers nearby.
Now, who can tell me what the principal threats of sky whales are?
No.
We don't like them. They're ugly.
They are flying.
They're big.
Yeah, they're very large.
They are indeed, and getting closer and closer. All right, everyone can make a knowledge nature check, if you please.
With,
Through the numbers. So Blackston.
I didn't roll.
Oh, you didn't roll. Sorry, Blackston Con, you don't have to roll. You've encountered these before. Jorek.
Is that wisdom or intelligence?
Nature is with.
Then
Is it in?
So as the ship is kind of getting closer and closer, Blackson's just standing there and just saying, "Well, one thing the captain must be is decisive and not waiting around."
That's true. All right. So, sorry, Jorek, what was your total?
My what?
Your total?
Oh, yeah, 14.
14. All right.
I thought you said turtle.
Sekhet-Hotep-Et.
She clearly was not concentrating in that class because she got 10.
All right. Dorskiv.
6.
Perhaps she and Dorskiv was sharing notes on something completely unrelated to nature.
If it has teeth, kill it.
Maurice, what was your nature?
Is it intelligent or wisdom? Sorry, I didn't.
Intelligence.
Okay, so it's 18.
All right. So between you and Jorek, the biggest challenge with skywills is that they often have harpins attached to them, which are these parasitic, semi-flying creatures that feed off of the dead skin and stuff that these massive creatures will shed. The other trick, of course, is that skywills don't seem to recognize airships as actually being anything that they should try and move around or avoid. So the general advice is when you see a pod of skywill, it's to avoid them because they won't avoid you. They'll just continue on course. And then obviously to be prepared for harping. They sometimes will detach themselves from the skywills and then drift down to ships that pass as a potentially easier meal. So that's what you two remember from your nature, air and aerial creatures 101.
So Maurice is screaming, "We should change the direction. That's dangerous. Now."
Yes, I know.
What are you doing about it?
I actually turned to the people hovering nearby to just get some approval that I assume you want me to change course.
He gets a completely blank face from me.
Indeed.
Thank you. Well, he takes the initiative to actually change course. So I turn away and try to keep the boat Nearby, but not close. I mean, I know about what kind of distance we need to keep, but I don't want to just turn around and go away. So try to keep some distance to them.
All right, absolutely. Would you please give me a, well, we call it a sailor check, but you guys wouldn't have had access to that. So
No.
would you give me Simon, we said it was a nature check. The cartography.
Said it's an int check.
Just an intelligence check, yeah. Give me an intelligence.
And we were proficient at it.
That's right. That's right.
Anyone paying attention sees.
Ooh. It doesn't matter that I'm really smart because I just rolled a natural 1.
Oh, yeah.
I was about to say you see Con relax slightly as Jorek makes his choice to.
Then he takes the wheel, just like
So, whoa. All right. So as you start to spin the wheel, you realize that there are also altitude controls in the form of levers that are next to the wheel, which you have to pull in order to change altitude. They control your, they're called your flappers. And you pull on both of those, but what you do is they're geared. And instead of just dropping it 1 gear, you drop it 3 gears down, which is a altitude drop of around about 180 foot or so. But that's
called free fall.
It's free fall, pretty much. Correct. So your flappers just open up sideways on either side of the ship, and the ship starts to drop.
Steady as she goes.
Dorskiv yells, "What are you doing over there?"
Blackston, all of you were prepared for this, so you were all holding onto the balustrade. The other crew members, that's Dorskiv, Maris, and Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you will all need to give me dexterity saving throws, please, as the ship suddenly just drops out of altitude.
Dexterity.
This could be fun.
All right, Sekhet-Hotep-Et.
11.
11. Dorskiv.
10.
Maris.
10.
As expected, Captains Blackson and Con, you watch as the 3 others just lift off of the deck, having nothing to do with this eventuality whatsoever, and tumble around as the ship starts to go down. Jorek, you're busy pulling on that wheel as the ship is rolling to the side and plunging downwards at the same
I'm
time.
desperately trying to fix what I just did. Trying to look like I know what I'm doing. And this was all intentional, I promise.
Yes, you try and keep that face until you see poor old Dorskiv, who looked as if he was crying at the front of the ship. He's busy rolling back along the length of the ship towards the mast. It wouldn't be so bad, except that Sekhet-Hotep-Et intercepts him going halfway across the deck, ending up in this bundle of joy that managed to capture the paper, one of the papers that Maris had been working on, except that the rest of your papers are now littering the skies, going off in different directions. So you have 1 page you had as you also are rolling around.
Do I manage to get it under control after a while?
Well, I'm going to ask you to make another intelligence check, please, to see if you can figure out how to stop a ship in free fall and what the most appropriate way to do that would be.
After this, I'm going to change my dice because I just rolled another natural 1. Oh my God.
Con, it's at this point that you realize that this young cadet is panicking absolutely. And so he's taken the gears from 3 notches down. He's now pushed them forward. Instead of pushing them forward 3 notches, he's overcompensated and pushed it forward 6 notches. So the ship that was now doing this is now trying to now do that and rise vertically
Back into the whales. Excellent.
It will be catastrophic for the 3 individuals that are rolling around on deck. Blackston, you also realize these 3 young cadets, they might have managed on one of the downward spirals, but for the ship to suddenly back up could be a problem. What are you doing? Con? Sorry, I'll start with Con first, then I'll come to you, Blackston. Your initiatives are close. Con?
I pop the cork out of the thing. All hands, prepare for potential parasite repulsing. And then I give Lieutenant Ty a significant look along the lines of relieve the cadet from the wheel.
All right. As you pull open that cork, all you can hear is Wolfen, Jock, and Stalk. Who the hell is flying my ship? And what are they doing? You put the cadets on the wheel, didn't you? And you can kind of walk back again. I don't know what's going on down there. All right. So that's what you're busy ordering, Blackston.
And then, sorry, preparing to intercept anyone who falls. So that was the end of it.
Yes. So kind of halfly expecting something going wrong, maybe not to the scale, but going wrong anyhow. I was standing near the railing with some rope, and I am intending to use it as a good cowboy would, I guess, while these tumbleweeds are in front of me. It's
All right.
so basically throwing rope to them and trying to catch them so they can grab onto something. And with that, I would say, lesson 2, always stay near something you can grab.
All right, so you're going to be
as the ship does from the nosedive into the
climb,
steep ascent.
All right, absolutely fine. So you're busy throwing out that rope, which then takes us through to, the next round. Sekhet-Hotep-Et, would you please? Are you going to try and grab this rope that lands over you whilst you've got Dorskiv's?
I think I'm too busy vomiting at this time.
Hey! Bloody hell.
Oh dear! All right, so that's what you're busy doing. That's going. Dorskiv, not the first time you've been in somebody else's ejector. Are you pulling yourself towards yourself, grabbing the rope, or are you trying to grab young elfling?
I'm going to try and take one of my hand axes and bury it into the deck and then grab the elf again.
Okay.
Don't tell Con. Don't tell Con.
Yeah, that's it.
What are you doing to my ship?
Trying not to fall off of it.
Just fall off.
Oh, your accent. Oh, no one cuts my ship. All right, so that's what you're doing. Maris, there is a rope that has landed next to you. Dorskiv, who's nearby, is wielding axes and looks as if he's about to attack attack the ship. There's a rope. What are you doing?
Well, I try to catch the rope, screaming, "Please catch me! Catch me!"
Yeah, if it's just the gnome,
Yes.
then I would try to haul him in and get him to somewhere because the rope, even like depending on how we don't stop maneuvering like this, the rope might also fly around while so trying to get him.
Hey, I'm gonna let go of the wheel. Okay, I'm gonna stop now.
Okay, so running through that chain of events, then, Con, you ready to catch anyone who's going off? There's no rules for you to be made there. Blackston, you're throwing out that rope. It's very easy. They are right next to you. It's not difficult whatsoever. And when hopefully Maris grabs it, he's a gnome. He weighs practically nothing, so you don't even have to worry about that. Dorskiv, would you please make a very basic attack roll? You have disadvantage on it, owing to certain carrots picking you up.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah, 2.
2. All right. So you pull out your axe.
Oh, that's 4, but
you sort of smack it into the side of the deck. The deck is remarkably tough.
Must have been
for
rough work.
out of wood, but also you don't have much of an angle. Okay, so you don't grab it. Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you were busy, as you say, you are relieving yourself of lunch, whilst there's this dwarf with an axe busy flailing around next to you. Maris, would you please give me an acrobatics check to grab that rope?
Which is dexterity or strength?
Dex.
Acrobatics is dex.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 6.
Okay, so the rope lands next to you. You're trying to grab it, but you ending up sort of wrapping yourself in it more than anything else. Blackson, you realize that this is going to.
If I see this, can I do like another hoop to try to kind of wrap it around him once more? Kind of...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that was one down. Next.
Blackston, what is it with you in bondage situations? Seriously.
All right, so you can give me an acrobatics check to do that with the rope, please.
Acrobatics? Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
12.
12 is enough. Well, it's higher than anybody else, so I'll take that as a given. That's enough to wrap it around. You loop it twice. Maris, you stop sliding too much in any direction as the rope starts to pull taut. Sekhet-Hotep-Et and Dorskiv, you are now getting very close to the railing. Blackson, Con, you said you were going to try and catch anyone who falls. How were you going to try and do that?
By casting Entangle.
Aha. All right. Entangle doesn't require that there is any... It can be cast on a constructed surface, right?
Actually, that's a good point.
I think the spell from the top of my head, it says like root
it's
ground. I don't know.
I think it was ground 2. Sorry, that's the reason why I'm questioning it, because I remember it causes stuff to sprout and grow. And the deck of the Windswift, unfortunately, no amount of druiding will allow that wood to grow again.
Wow, come on. What kind of druid are you?
Grasping weeds and vines sprout from the ground in a square.
All right, that's fine. We're moving on. So you throw out Entangle only to realize that it doesn't work on the magically treated hull of the Windswift. There are no roots or plants.
Oh, bother.
So your spell discharges, and the two of them don't seem to be held fast at all. As you step back, Jorek, Lieutenant Ty steps past you.
Those are some very sensitive controls.
She
I
looks
try
at
to
you
look.
and she says, "It's a gearing system."
I knew that.
She pulls on two of the gear levers to start to plane out the ship. But as she does so, she looks over at you, Jorek, and she says, "One click at a time is usually sufficient, because if you go too fast," and she looks over at this barbarian elf Tangle busy rolling around flailing axes, "your crewmates won't like it very much."
Understood.
And just shouting up to the helm, especially the ones under deck.
Yes, I would avoid any gnomes if I were you for the next few hours. Slowly
I look over at my crewmates and go, "Oh dear."
She starts
the cook. Avoid the cook too.
Yes. Just everybody. Just basically, yes. Just stay where you are.
So what you're saying, I should jump off the ship right now? No.
All right. So as the ship starts to come under control, Dorskiv and Sekhet-Hotep, you have been remarkably intimate for a few rounds as you've rolled around one another. But the ship has started to come under control, so your uncontrollable rolling eventually just ends up with the two of you sprawled on top of one another. Maris, you are entangled with rope at the end of which is Blackston. And the ship starts to level out. Now, with all of this plunging and then diving and then leveling out, you notice that the sky wheels have now moved around the ship. And you can see every now and again, it looks like these very ugly bats with great leathery wings that are holding on to the underside of these creatures. And every now and again, one of them drops off and then starts to, as it sails through the air, you can see the leathery wings sort of billowing out. And it slowly starts to drift down towards the Windswift. The scent of the sky wolves is something quite unusual. And although Sekhet-Hotep-Et and Dorskiv are smelling all sorts of things that they don't want to, there is still this wonderful aroma of fresh and new rain. It's that very clean, very, very cool, calming scent that accompanies these giant sky wolves as they move past. Jorek, you can see the wheel that Lieutenant Ty is holding starts to shudder as one of these massive flippers comes down nearby, causing the ship to list slightly as the air currents are disturbed.
I back off and hold on to the railing just in case.
Right. Good call. Top of the round. So, Con, are you doing anything?
Observing at this point, but also I kind of surreptitiously alert the crew to the potential for, once again, since Jock and Stoke was shouting the last time, that we might have to repel parasites. The crew should understand that since they're all experienced.
Right.
And then I'm just watching to see what happens, essentially, ready to respond if need be.
Okay, Blackson?
Reeling in the gnome.
Thank you, Captain.
You get him onto his feet. He seems okay. A little bit less paperful, but definitely okay. Jorek, you're holding onto the railing watching Lieutenant Ty or the whales?
I'm actually watching the whales at this point because, well, they are big and imposing, and also there are things falling out of them.
Right.
So I'm keeping track on, is any one of them going to land on the boat? If so, I get ready to do something about it.
All right.
Still holding onto the railing, though.
Right.
I'm still not okay with all that wibbly-wobbly I just did.
There is definite signs that harpoons are dropping off, coming towards the ship. There might be about 8 or 9 of them as you're watching that have detached themselves and slowly are starting to drift down towards the ship. Every now and again, they have these long, almost serpent-like tails, which they beat as if it's swimming through water to propel themselves forward, coming towards the vessel. Various cries are going out.
Can I see that Khan has noticed that they're coming?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And then from above, there's a young boy who shouts out, "We got incoming harpoons!"
You'll have noticed me saying something into the speaking tube, but otherwise looking fairly neutral.
Right. Sekhet-Hotep-Et.
Having apologized profusely for throwing up all over Dwarf.
You're gonna clean up my beard.
Sorry. It'll come out in the wash. Didn't mean to on this occasion. I'm probably going to go over there now and help with the funny, weird things falling off the other things. I really should have paid more attention in class.
All right, so you're heading off anywhere not near the dwarf, who's covered in carrots and peas. Dorskiv, what are you doing?
I used to first do dog shake kind of thing to get as much as I can off. And then I kind of sit there with my axes ready just in case something gets really close in swiping distance.
All right.
And before I cut my thumb and get ready.
Right. Interesting. Yes, there are 12 harpoons in total as the skywolves are now moving over. These 12 creatures are definitely coming to land on the ship. From the crow's nest right at the top of the mast, all of you can see the young cabin boy named Mios. He is there and he has what you would swear looks like a handcrafted glaive, or is it a naginata or some kind of bow weapon thing? It looks as if it's got rope tied around it to itself. Looks very homemade. Doesn't look like this thing will do any damage whatsoever to anything or anyone. But he has in his hand this little sling, which he's busy winding around, ready to discharge. Coming up onto deck, there is 2 other individuals. One is a gnome who is nursing a rather large bump on his forehead, and he doesn't look too happy. And then the other is a drow who steps forward, squinting at the light and sort of pulling his hood even deeper over his head.
I sort of wiggle away from the wheel. I didn't do it.
They pick up these long spears, which they sort of prepare to hold off. They look across at you 4. They see Dorskiv with his axe. They kind of move on. Sekhet-Hotep-Et, what do you look like you're armed with? Nothing, I don't think.
Well, I'm kind of sitting there, standing there, muttering at my hand, going, "Come on, you know how to do this. Work. Oh, for fuck's sakes."
All right. Well, one of them takes it. Well, she's obviously casting magic. That's what they all do, isn't it? Swear and point their fingers a lot. Assume that's what you're doing. Jorek?
I pull up my spear. I'm not very good with it, but I have a spear.
That's all they needed to know, that you're armed. Yeah. Maris, The one that's walked up, he is a gnome, the one who's got a bump on his forehead. He looks at you, and you can see from beneath his heavy beard, this grin just opens out across his face.
I return the smile, of course.
And are you wielding any kind of weaponry?
The best weapon, music. I'm getting ready to help my fellow partner with my...
All right. He looks at the music, and if you could read his thoughts, he's hoping that you don't sound like a certain previous captain. Doesn't care much for chung music. But everyone seems armed. Blackston, do you have your weaponry with you, or is that below deck? In other words,
I would have my arming sword with me, not my halberd.
Right. Hurricane, the cook, looks over at you. Can they get your weapon, sir, or would you prefer a spear?
No, I'm good.
Con?
I bang my staff on the deck and it becomes wreathed in green energy.
Show off.
You say that?
No.
But
I definitely think it.
For a moment.
Are there any people around Dorskiv who look terribly armed?
I beg your pardon, are there any?
Are there people who don't look well armed around Dorskiv?
Lieutenant Tai, she's holding the wheel. Naxun Hashtahep is standing next to her. He doesn't look particularly armed.
I point at him and yell "you," and run over to him and hand him my great axe and say, "Use it well and make sure you hand it back."
The Sekhet elf looks down at this very large axe. I think it is the first time a captain has ever offered me a weapon. Perhaps. Well, let's see what this one does if he sets anyone on fire. And he braces with his axe. Right, so now I need initiative from everybody, please. We're now into combat, so we're out of the initiative rounds for discussions. Oh, gosh. All right, so I will run through the list. Con.
14.
Thank you. Blackston.
15.
Thank you. Jorek.
14, but I can move that down to 13 to not conflict with Con.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's not a problem.
Right.
Sekhet-Hotep-Et.
18.
Ooh.
Go. Something sparks. Dorskiv.
21.
Maris.
Always battle ready.
8.
All right, you got to crank out the music. You got to sort of work yourself up into a...
Yeah.
He has to come up with a verse, you know?
Right.
I'm so stressed about my first battle.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la.
Right. Okay, so these creatures, the moment they see that there is fresh meat out on the deck, they start to really... Their wings close in behind them. Their heads, which from this distance, it looks like it's just this round ring of teeth with a tube and then wings on either side, and then this tail which is thrashing the air. Their heads elongate out, and those teeth start to press forward, changing it from being a mouth that chomps like that to being these spikes on the front of its face. Quite a distended looking tube of flying meat. Their wings tuck back and they start to dive towards the ship at quite some speed. Dorskiv, you are the first to act. What are you doing?
I'm gonna
starting straight for you.
I'm gonna get ready to hit it.
All right, it's literally upon you, so you may.
Okay. So I'm gonna hit it, dual wielding hand axes. So I'm gonna try and hit it with that.
All right, make your attack.
All right, 20, not natural.
All right.
And then the second one's second attack's disadvantage on it, right? The other, yeah. All right. And then 9.
All right, your first attack hits. Do your damage.
And that would be a 10.
10 damage. All right. as it's swooping in towards you, you swing at it with the one axe, and your axe just happens to catch it right on the front of its mouth, and it splits itself in half along the length of your axe. Your other axe misses because there's nothing there to hit. It's already sort of peeled itself around you and lands on the deck. As it lands, though, it still writhes around, its tail still waggling as if it's trying to continue swinging. Both halves kind of move around, and the mouth is still opening and closing as it lands dead.
Dorskiv steps on the tail as the final insult.
All right, you can feel its muscles still sort of twitching underneath. The creatures now act, so everybody else gets dive bombed by these horrid creatures. So we'll just start at the top of the list. So the attack for Jorek, it gets a wonderful armor class of 9, so that's a complete miss. It swoops past you and does instead of rising back up, all it does is it sails past you and then continues along the length of the ship, just seeking out another body to try and attach itself onto.
I tried to look like I at least dodged.
So it goes past. Whoa! Right? So it sails past you. There is nothing coming for Dorskiv at the moment. For Maris, this one had to go in low. That's hitting an armor class of 18, so I believe that's a hit.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's nice knowing you.
All right, so you take a whole 2 points of damage as this thing lands on you, and those teeth bury themselves into your shoulder, and its bat-like wings wrap around you, and it feels like it's pulsing on top of you, and you realize that those teeth are slowly starting to turn and try to almost bore itself into you. So you have one of these things attached.
Dodges.
Yeah. Sekhet-Hotep-Et. I'm going to punish you for giving me such a long name to say.
You could just say
Sekhet and insult thousands of years of tradition of the Sekhet people? Never.
You know that I'm just going to call him or her Et.
All right. So one of these
Just don't mispronounce that. It.
19. That's also a hit. So you're standing there trying to get your hand to ignite, and in focusing on that, one of these things just lands on your back, buries itself into your shoulder, in between your shoulders, for a whole 4 points of damage.
Okay.
As it starts to try to eat its way into your body. For Blackston, one of these things comes swooping in and gets a natural 1, of course. And
I'm not alone.
yes, you and the flying snakes are not alone. Yes, so it as it swoops in towards you, you've got bits of rope around you that you were using to salvage the gnome with. It gets wrapped up into that rope. Its velocity is completely stopped, and it's sort of just flailing around at your feet. For Con, that's an 18. That'll be a hit, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And you take 6 points of damage as this thing just slams into your sternum and then starts to wrap its arms and things around you, trying to hold you down and work its way deeper inside of you. This brings us to Sekhet-Hotep-Et. This thing is on your back. It's busy trying to claw at you. You can still use your magic. That's not a problem, but you will have to make a concentration check.
Oh dear. Right. Well, yes. Constitution check will probably be necessary. Better roll dice. Oh dear. 5.
All right.
She's dying.
Screaming over the railing.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
When PO, she pukes on me, now she's screaming.
yes.
I don't know if I can still cast magic at this stage if the constitution is so low, but she will attempt to do shocking grasp, which would be a melee spell attack.
Yeah, all right. I'll let you do the shocking grasp because it's shocking grasp. You have to touch it. It's touching you. It kind of makes sense, although it is kind of like hitting yourself with your own defibrillator.
That could be. That could also be a bonus. But I only got 11.
11 to hit it? No, that's absolutely fine. Once they're attached, they're basically part of you. So you can do your damage to it as you shock it with lightning.
Let's roll the dice. Oh, well, that went well. 1.
You're quite lucky because as you hit it with this electrical discharge, you feel it quiver slightly, but you also feel the electricity pulse into yourself because you also take 1 point of damage.
Okay, I'm definitely dying now.
I wasn't dying before. Now that's it. That's it. All right. Blackston.
So how bad does she look now with a new...
She's leaning on the railing and she's just shocked herself.
All right.
The creature's tail is wrapping around her bottom leg, and it seems to be settling in for a good feed.
All right. Completely disregarding the situation. Just moving up the stairs, disregarding the stuff that's next to me, and said, like,
Well,
God, let's see how the recruits are doing. And just standing there next to it. Like, do you need any help?
I'm fine, thank you.
And I will cast a Shield of Faith on me, basically. No, actually not. I'm just going into defensive stance. So
right,
dodging.
So you're looking out for anything that might come your way. In the flailing of it, Jorek, you're up next.
I use a bonus action to use lethal strike, psionic power, to make my spear glow, and I try to just stab the closest creature that I can find.
Very well, make your attack.
I suck at this. Come on, you can do this.
Is that the one on con? The only one that's not moving?
It's 15 to hit.
15 is a hit. Do your damage.
Yes. That is maths. 13. 12. 12.
Either way, you impale it onto your spear, and as you pull your spear out, it also lands on the deck and sort of writhes around, sort of shaking. And at first, you're not sure it's completely dead, but after a moment or two, it starts to stop twitching and is completely unmoving.
I still stand there ready to stab it again, just in case it moves.
All right. Con, with this creature enveloping you, trying to bite into you.
It then finds itself trying to bite into a tiger.
All right, so you just morph into this tiger. Okay, you can't attack the same round that you shift, right? It's not a bonus.
I can.
You can.
It's a bonus action.
Yeah.
For you.
It's bonus.
It's part of my druid circle thing.
Ah, yes. All right, make your attacks.
Okay. So that would be not a hit.
So this large tiger suddenly appears on deck and sort of pats at this, just sort of pops around.
Like,
My magic has been so effective today.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Really showing the cadets how it's done. Absolutely. And that brings us all the way down to Maris.
So, as it's my first battle against kind of like tiny dragons, Maris is like, "Get off of me! Get off! Get off, please!"
So just using your musical instrument as an actual blunt weapon, right?
Yeah.
he meant it when he says he's armed with music.
Yes. But you can see that he's a bard because he's already describing the battle in terms of tiny dragons as opposed to parasitic underlings. I mean, it's lovely. All right, make your attack.
18.
That's a hit. Do you have stats for your mandolin of death?
No.
Improvised weapons to a 1d4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, 2.
2 points of damage. All right, so you smack into this creature, and you really hit it what you think is very hard, but it hasn't been paying any attention as you beating down on this bloodsucker, which continues to operate. Back to the top of the round. But before we do that, and that happens. All right, Dorskiv.
Is there still little parasite around the elf that's screaming?
Yes, it's attached to her, and it looks as if it's settling in for a good feed.
All right.
It's like the alien. No, it's like
How big are these things?
maybe
exactly?
Half-Life, but just from the back.
Correct.
What's the size of these things exactly?
So its wingspan is about 3 foot, give or
So
take.
it's kind of like a flying snake. It's a flying
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Dorskiv goes up to grab it.
You're just going to
Grapple.
grab this thing and sort
I'm
of
going to
fight with it.
grapple this thing.
All right, that's absolutely fine. Give me an athletics check, please.
20. Unnatural.
You grab onto this creature, and you can feel its muscles as it's trying to. It feels as if it's trying to suck the very life out of this poor, very frail elf. Of all the targets on the ship, I mean, the gnome has more meat on him. You grab onto this thing and you wrench backwards, expecting there to be a resistance. But it was not expecting to be ripped from anywhere, so it just peels away in your hands. But as it does so, its tail starts to wrap around your arm, and those teeth start to try and snap at you as you're now holding this thing.
And now I yell at the elf and like, all right, it's not moving. Get it.
You hear this
Fireball.
Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you hear that from
I'm
behind.
going to pay for my hair transplants now.
That's 5 beard damage.
The beard should have its own health bar.
All right, so the creature's now attacked. So Jorek, you don't have one on you anymore. Dorskiv, you now have one in your hands, which is going to try and bite at you. It only gets an armor class of 9, so that's not going to work. Maris, you and your dance partner are still engaged. It tries to bite you. It hits an armor class of 11. Is that close to your armor class?
I think it's right up my armor class.
So
I believe it's 10.
All right.
So yeah, it hits.
It hits. It snaps at you. You take another 4 points of damage
Ouch.
as this thing is just biting, and it's quite vicious. Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you don't have one on you anymore. Blackston, you don't have one on you. Con, you do still have one on you. However, it has backed up a little bit because its little collection of nerves, which constitutes its brain, has suddenly registered that what was a nice shaped heat signature has now changed quite dramatically to a 4-legged heat signature. And the noises have changed as well. So it's a little bit...
Not so nice heat signature anymore.
Yes.
And suddenly there's all sorts of sharp things on it.
Yes. All right, Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you're up.
Well, she's flailing about a bit because she's literally almost dying, and she's trying to find Con because she knows Con has the medicine, but there isn't a Con, there's just a tiger.
And,
Well, you should feel right at home.
and a dwarf holding the
And a dwarf
creature
holding
that was
the-
trying to eat you. Yes.
Okay. No, not a good idea. Not a good idea. No, I think I have a small knife.
Stop it!
All right, you pull out the small knife and you try and stab at this creature. Make your attack.
1.
You don't want that.
Drive it into his heart. Either one.
Oh. Ah, yeah, I missed too.
All right, so you're sort of standing there trying to stab at this thing. No comment.
Doesn't she have advantage?
It's not
because
staying
we're
still.
No, because it's still. Although you're
Still.
holding it, she's still holding it. It's still
Alright.
moving.
She
around.
doesn't want to hit your hand.
and-
You
yeah.
probably.
Yes.
because it's a small creature. Wrapped
All
in
right. That brings us to the Con Jorek duo. So, Con, you're up first this time.
Right, well, I'm going to try... Has this thing unwrapped itself from me then?
Hang on, I skipped Blackston. Sorry.
It's okay. Con, go ahead.
Got a habit of doing that, haven't you?
I do.
Poor Blackstone. Now go on, mate.
All right. So looking at you. So this thing let loose.
Yes, briefly.
I just trying to do a lunge and just like get it on onto the arming sword.
Sure,
Real
make your
quick.
attack.
14.
That's a hit. Do your damage.
I will just do a little one smite to it too. So the tip just like lights up real quick, and that's a total of 21 points of damage.
As you skewer this thing and invoke the power of your god, the entire creature just explodes out in all different directions in this sort of puff of red mist. Bits of tail and wing and things go off in different directions, and all land writhing on the deck a little bit before they stop.
And I just look at Con and say, "Are you good there, Mittens? Let's see how the captains do."
All right, now over to Con.
Right, so that thing has died in front of me. No one appears to be in imminent danger of dying, right? In terms of
Please help me.
has anyone still got a creature wrapped around them?
So,
Yes, I
when
think
you're
that's
standing looking out over the deck of the Windswift, the dwarf is busy arm wrestling one of these creatures. The Sekhet elf is standing looking very, very weak, but that's not much different from her normal sort of position. But she's holding out what looks to be perhaps a fruit knife or a paring knife. You're not entirely clear. Some very small blade.
Not a good teamwork there.
Trying to stab without stabbing the dwarf. There is, of course, a rather strange sound. It sounds like someone is very slowly punching a cat. Because every now and again there's this deranged cacophony of noise, and you realize that's this very small gnome who's busy beating one of these creatures. There we go. Yes, he's on it, but it doesn't seem to be coming off, and he's got quite a lot of blood now starting to spray all over the place. Everybody else, though, the dwarf holding the creature seems to be in command of the situation, and the pilot of the day, he's sort of standing, stabbing the corpse of a very dead.
In which case, I look at Maris and I say, Maris, may the healing energies of the Lady of Life infuse you, and you gain 5 hit points.
So do you turn back to a human then?
Yeah.
So striding
Thank
out in
you.
tiger form. Thank you.
You feel energy revitalize you somewhat.
Jorek?
Do I have line of sight to Dorskiv?
Yes, absolutely. From where you are, the command deck looks out over the rest of the ship, so you can see him and Sekhet-Hotep-Et.
How far away is he, approximately? Could I throw my spear?
Yeah. He's about 35 foot away.
All right, so I scream to Dorskiv, hold it up sideways! And then I use ethereal weapon again. Technically, that means I don't actually need to roll, but on a throw,
Yes,
I
I would
guess
like
I would need to roll anyway.
In case
Yeah.
it's one of those famous ones that you've so far delighted.
Which dice was that again? Yeah. Okay. So I do use ethereal weapon, 2 points, and throw it. And I attempt to hit the writhing creature in his hands. Just going for rule of cool here. That's dexterity for throwing, right?
Yeah.
So 20 total.
Oh, that's lovely. All right. So you throw the spear, do your damage.
All right. That's not amazing. 7.
Doesn't matter. You throw the spear and you guide it with the power of your mind straight through this creature that Dorskiv you're holding up. Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you're going to have to do a little bit of a dance as the spear sails past you as well with this creature on it. You can feel, Dorskiv, as the spear stabs through it. The head of the spear is almost as wide as the creature is, but you can feel the tug of the weapon as it's obviously gone straight through this poor creature, just pulling away from you, and the whole thing impales itself on the opposite side of the ship. This thing writhes around the spear for a few moments, but then goes limp.
Yay, I did something.
Yay.
That's number 2.
It wasn't a 1.
One, absolutely. Okay, so then last in the round is our wonderful bard, Maris.
Yeah. So can I try to calm down the creature by singing?
Using calm? What spell are you trying to use? All right, go for it.
Oh, little snake, please. Natural 20.
Aha! There we go. There we go. Lovely. Roll it again, please.
Yeah. Oh, 1.
That's all right. So the effect is a normal effect. So the spell will calm an aggressive creature. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that your intention? Okay,
Yep.
so you start singing the song of sky whales and nature, I'm assuming, and
Yeah, you did.
it's holding on to you, but after a moment, it stops sort of struggling majorly, and after another moment, you feel this gentle stroking on your leg. And you look down, and its tail is just very gently stroking against your leg. In
So
rhythm.
I'm like,
Your,
good boy, good boy.
there we
Now,
go.
can you please gonna go?
Yeah.
All right.
It's quite literally attached now, yes?
Yes, it is indeed. Back to top of the round. Dorskiv.
Are there any more? How many more left?
There are 3 left. One is currently resting in Maris's arms as he sings to it. And then there is one that has just freed itself from being entangled in ropes. And then there is a third one that is busy still swooping around and has avoided everyone else's attacks.
I'm gonna yell at the bard and be like, "No fraternizing with the enemy," and then go towards the other one that's going with the rope and hit it with my hand axe.
All right, easy enough. You can get over to it, make your attack.
4, and then the
So
other
you need to
is
hit it
13.
around it. All right,
the other
so
axe is 13.
do your damage.
That'd be 6.
6 points damage. All right. It stops moving. You can see that it's obviously on its last legs. It's bleeding quite heavily, and it's quite rapidly losing the will to fight. The one on Maris is busy. It's entranced. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to sit there and feel the vibrations of your body as you sing to it.
I will call it Seth.
Seth, the flying serpent. All right. And then the last one, which is still free and at large. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people is going after. All right. So you're busy singing to it, trying to calm it down.
Yeah.
And then swooping out of nowhere, there is this last one, which is still sort of looking for targets and that kind of thing. And it's going to attack number 4. So Sekhet-Hotep-Et, as you are standing ready to do something, another one of these things just latches onto your arm. It hits an armor class of 13.
Well, that's going to be a hit.
Is that a hit? All right. Okay. This time it buries its teeth into you for 3 points of damage.
I'm dead.
Unconscious.
Oh.
You fall over on the deck. This thing is busy munching down on you, having an absolute blast of a time. So you are unconscious?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we're actually into your round. And you went below 0?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Would you give me a death saving throw, if you please?
Oh, dear. Now, this is going to be my first death saving row. So what am I throwing for this?
Just a
D20 again? Okay.
And no modifiers.
All right. Here we go. 20. Natural 20.
Picks
Wow,
up with
all
a
right.
hit point.
That's it. That's it.
Phew.
Okay. That was your action.
I saved myself.
Yes.
Somehow.
Blackston. There is still one of these things that's feasting on the young Sekhet.
Yeah, I'm just defensive stance standing there taking a look what the cadets are doing.
All right. Lovely. Jorek.
I'm still surprised, or Jorek is still surprised with the fact that he actually managed to fight. It's not his thing. But I see Sekhet falling over, so I pull up my sword and see if I can save her. So I would dash over there and see if I can attack.
All right, it's easy enough. You can make your attack.
I try to shove the sword in between her and the serpent so I can like pry it away or cut it away or whatever. Just get off. Get off her, you... Oh, that's 16.
16 is a hit. Do damage.
That would be 4.
4 points of damage. All right. You slice open one of its wings, causing its head momentarily to lift up, and it doesn't really make much of a noise, but its teeth sort of open and close looking at you, and then it goes back to trying to eat the Sekhet elf. Con?
She's conscious, right?
She's moaning, yes.
Right. Then I shout, Sekhet-Hotep-Et! May the Lady of Life infuse her energies through you. And you regain 6 hit points.
Phew.
You feel its warmth flooding through you as Con's evocation restores a certain amount of life to you. Maris?
How far away I'm from the side of the ship?
7 or 8 feet, not very far.
Okay. So if I can gently pull out the snake from my chest and just gently and softly drop it
over the
off
side.
the deck. Yeah.
All right.
Like
Calm my snake, go.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going to try and very gently drop this over the side of the ship.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you please give me a nature check?
No animal handling?
That's
Yeah, it should have been animal handling.
So it's 13.
13. That's fine. You disengage it very carefully, and you know that these creatures respond primarily to warmth because sky wolves are warm-blooded creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So you make sure to kind of keep it as warm as possible right up until the last moment when you get just over the balustrade, and then you drop it. And for quite a few seconds, you watch it tumble down, still in this happy state of, it thought it was feeling vibrations and things until it realizes that it doesn't, at which point it opens out its wings and it just bursts out and starts sailing underneath the ship. You watch for a while and you realize that it hasn't looked up, so it doesn't know where the ship is because it slowly does a circle or two before starting to move off again. And it's going to have to use thermal to rise back up to the height that the ship is on. So it manages to make its way off.
First battle win.
Yeah. Dorskiv?
Am I going to have to save the elf again? I go down there and hit it with my hand axes. 18.
That's a hit.
And 3. So the damage would be 4.
4 damage. You cut into its wing. This time you cut its tail completely off, causing the tail to ride off in one direction, and the creature itself to suddenly slacken. And Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you feel this entire beast suddenly go heavy on you as it stops moving.
It died on me. Nice.
You puked on me. At least I can pay you back with.
Thanks.
All right, so yes, the rest of the creatures have been driven off by the rest of the crew who have been fighting alongside you in the background. And for a moment, the ship just continues on in relative silence. We're now back to those original initiatives that you rolled. So that takes us through to Con.
Mios, bucket and mop, deck cleaning duty. Well done, cadets. Well done. I'm particularly pleased to see you band together and help each other out. Blackston?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any thoughts?
Well, I was half expecting one of them going overboard.
It did look like it might happen. Well done for not dying, or at least not dying right away.
And on that cheery note, Mios comes skidding along with a bucket and a mop, and he starts to flick the bits and pieces off of the side of the ship.
Is that the one that had my axe?
Right. Yeah. No. Naxun comes up to you. You can see that the axe has. It doesn't seem to have any sign of damage on it whatsoever, or any blood, or. As a matter of fact, he looks quite calm, cool, and collected as he hands the axe over to you.
Aye, good lad.
Thank you very much for this, for the use of this weapon. It really came in handy, saving Lieutenant Tai from the creatures.
Aye, good.
Kind of taking a look to Lieutenant Tai standing next to me. Like,
Lieutenant Tai is standing at the wheel. Her hair is impeccable as usual. She doesn't look as if these creatures possibly came near her. She looked at them and they went away, realizing that she didn't need to be bothered by that sort of nonsense.
Sorry, I really need to go for 1 minute.
Oh, absolutely. Not a problem.
Yeah.
All right. So the ship continues on its course, and within the space of half an hour, the large structure that is Dwaslan border starts to loom out in front of you. Now, the suggestion that the Academy gave to you, Blackston and Con, was to perhaps put down just outside of Dwaslan border on the coast, let the cadets sail the ship into harbor so they can see the usual processes. And then there is a dwarf there that you might speak with. One thing that you do know about Dwaslan Board, everybody knows a piece of information, especially Dorskiv, is that Dwaslan Board is not affiliated with the dwarvish clans in any way, and is one of the few independent dwarvish states that exists within Braxia. It's also important to note that they did sign the Treaty of the Orders, so they do recognize order authority. There is an individual there that you can meet with. His name is Lachlan. That's all they give you, which is really unusual for the dwarves, because usually they have quite long names. Anyway, Lachlan is the dwarf that you might make contact with if you want to get an appraisal of the city in general in terms of its usual attitudes.
as we touch into the water, I just ask into the group, any other people who know to helm a ship? Not you.
I clearly have a thing or two to learn.
I had
natural
many
for
basic lessons. I'm not going to say I can steer a ship of this size.
Well, it's time you started learning. Take the wheel.
Don't touch the levers.
I shuffle over to the railing again.
The levers are not necessary during aquatic sailing mode.
Absolutely. All right. So you take the wheel. Lieutenant Tai looks at you. She gives you an appraising look, but she notices that you look a little disheveled, having been near death and, yes, well, disgorging your lunch. So her approval stare is not that of a, yes, let's be united. It's more of a case of, well, if this is what they're dragging up now as captains, I might as well resign my commission. Anyway, that's all conveyed in one look as she steps back. You take the wheel. Give us an intelligence check, please, as you...
Are you still hurt?
I could probably do a bit more healing, but I will survive.
Okay.
But yes, an intelligence check. Okay. Ooh, good. 17.
All right, plus your proficiency with that. So as you take the wheel, you suddenly feel the weight of the water starting to pull to the left and to the right as you're crossing various currents and things. But you managed to adjust for that quite well. And as Lieutenant Tai steps back, there is a sigh that comes from various crew members as the ship doesn't plunge left, right, up, or down.
Down.
Fairly,
You know what?
yes, on a fairly straight course.
Let's make this a submarine.
Hi, to Yukon and Blackston. Should we let the young captain take us all the way into dock, sir?
Yes, I don't see why not. I'm sure you can take over if she's going to crash the boat.
Very good, sir.
I step up to Jorek and pat him on the shoulder and go, "Don't worry, I used to have problems with my flappers."
Yes, I think I have a thing or two to learn from you, I say as I walk past and see if I can find my spear that hopefully haven't flown overboard.
All right, your spear is still embedded into the side of the ship. Mios is busy tugging on it to try and get the creature off.
I'll try to help him pull it out.
The city of Dwaslan Border is typical dwarvish design, very square, very robust city, but unlike the dwarvish nation far to the west, they're not in mourning. So bright pennant flags flap in the breeze. There is this wonderful aroma of baked goods which washes out over the bay, sort of mixing with this natural salt in the air to create this very, very opulent scent, which speaks of good food and good feasting. The docks, quite well maintained, very large docks. You can see there are 3 Sekhet trading ships that are a part of the quay, as well as one very large, very strange looking chung vessel with its big square sort of fins as opposed to sails in dock as well. And as you approach the dock, Sekhet-Hotep-Et, would you please give us another intelligence check as you're bringing her in. Hurricane steps up to Conan Blackston. With your permission, sirs, I would like to go and shop around. The Dwaslan Border bakeries are known for quite remarkable produce.
Of course, fill the storage. I wanted to go to shop around anyhow to see what we can find to trade.
Yes, if any general supplies required, we should take them on here.
Absolutely.
So,
we're going to have quite a bumpy entrance, though.
So, Guy, I don't know how long we are supposed to train cadets for.
Right.
What the Archon told us, but generally speaking, we are free to do whatever, right? So I would want to take a look at like local goods, and we want to go to the drow, so like something that they would need, I guess, like grain, stuff like this that they can grow themselves, maybe.
Right, absolutely. Yes, in terms of the cadets, his suggestion was take them around the block, basically send them down to the Gamspire, let them see a dwarvish city, sort of test them out on navigation, that sort of thing. And at night, well, let them do what they want to do. I mean, that's entirely up to you. And yes, assess them to see whether or not you think they're going to be good captains. So that's what your briefing would be.
Okay.
So what was your piloting as you slowly bring her around?
7. So bumpy.
Yes.
May crash.
Very bumpy. Suddenly, you are standing there and you're watching as the ship's slowly starting to line up with this big stone pier and a jetty that stretches out into the bay. It looks good. And suddenly you start to realize that she hasn't corrected to come back. So the ship is basically going to arc into the jetty rather than arc and come alongside. At that point, there's running feet as Vaxon starts to pull his sails to try and correct the speed the ship is coming in. Lieutenant Ty steps up next to you and just places her hand on your hand and pulls down, causing the wheel to spin slightly around. The ship comes in, and for a moment, it looks as if you're going to crash into that stonework. It feels as if you're going to crash into that stonework. The stone pier disappears underneath the front of the ship as she's going forward. And there's this very subtle
So, Cotton, how's your day?
You said baked goods, didn't you?
And finally, the ship comes to a stop. There's a little speaking tube, a brass speaking tube next to you, and you can hear a voice coming from that tube. What's up? What's up? My ship. What are we doing?
Oh no.
Jock and Stark?
Hey, sir! No, what are we doing? I did not realize that this was a training exercise where the cadets could learn how to destroy a ship, especially not once she's only just been rebuilt, sir. With the greatest respect, I suggest that these cadets get sent back to the academy where they learn how to fly a ship.
Well, I think you've had your engineering assessment for the day.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Yes.
lean over to Sekhet and say, now you know how it feels.
Thanks. There's that vote of confidence there.
All right.
Are there any good bars in this place?
So the Sekhet elf who's been running around Naxun Sekhet-Hotep, as you say that, he steps up next to you. Now that you mention bars, I might happen to know of a particularly interesting one, and I know that they serve Sekhet wine.
Oh no, that's definitely what I wanted to hear.
I would suggest, however, before you go through, that you maybe take a dip in the bay.
Oh yes, the pier.
Dorskiv's already stripping and
Are there not bathing facilities for, us of the, I would say fairer sex, but I don't think that's going to stand anymore looking at the state of me.
Yes. I will show you to the waters.
And
I
then
will.
you can leave me there, don't worry.
Okay, good. Yeah. So he takes you below deck. Dorskiv, you're busy paddling around in the bay, washing yourself off. It's quite cold water being this far south with a giant glacier just above you. So you realize that you can't really stay down here for too long. Yes, just because of it's so cold. Con and Blackstone, do you disembark?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you two are heading off into itself. Maris?
I would ask, I guess, Jasani to come with me to do the buying, to oversee and kind of manage that with me.
Absolutely, sir, without a doubt. So she will disembark with you. Maris?
I'm asking Maris is asking Conan Blackstone, please, can I join you? I never visited a dwarf city like that.
Then by all means, you should come take a look.
And behave like a captain already.
Oh yes, of course, Captain.
All right, so the three of you will go off in that direction. Jorek?
Good cop, bad cop going here.
Well, picking up on that last line, behave like a captain already, Jorek just walks up, joins them, and, well, I'll tag along.
Wow.
All right. So you four head off into town. Dorskiv and Sekhet-Hotep-Et, eventually you are bathed and ready. Naxun looks at you, Dorskiv. Are you going to join us? We are going to a bar.
I've got business to attend to with the leader of this city.
Very well. Fine. Yes. Good.
Wine.
Yes, we will go right now if you go this way with me. Huh? So the two Sekhet elves leave. They immediately switch to well, he starts to talk to you in Sekhet. Do you respond in Sekhet or do you stay in common?
No, I can respond in Sekhet.
So they head off chatting away in Sekhet. Dorskiv leaving you on the deck for a moment.
Bloody elves.
A few moments later, these two gnomes come up onto deck. One of them looks as if he has basically taken lumps of ash and coal and just covered himself in it. He looks very much like an engineer. The other one has got a big bump on his forehead. You saw him on deck earlier, fending off some of these creatures. They're both gnomes. They look you up and down.
Washer's fine.
Are you the last captain on board?
Believe so, yes.
Oh, I see. They did that to you, did they? Give me an insight
guess
check,
they
if you please.
That would be a 14.
14. All right. The one that's got the bump on his head, he puts his hand over his mouth and he turns away to look out pensively over the ocean. The one covered in soot goes, well, you know, if you're the last captain on board, that means that you're the one in charge. So I need some orders, sir.
I nominate you captain for now until someone gets back.
Oh, that's mighty kind of you, sir. But I've been an engineer aboard an airship for the last 30-odd years, and
And
I've
you
never
should
been
know how
made
it runs.
before. So no, I think you fit the bill quite well there, sir. So the first question that we have is the flapper restraining bolts. Do you think we should keep those in place, or do you think we should loosen them?
Keep them where they are.
You want to keep them where they are, sir?
Yeah, sure.
And all right, we'll keep the restraining bolts absolutely.
Dorskiv pulls out a coin.
Absolutely where they are. All right, I see where this is going. Then the dorsal hatch, sir. Do you want us to leave that open, or would you like us to close that?
Dorskiv flips the coin. Tells it to close them.
It's a very good idea to close the dorsal hatch. Very good idea, just in case, we sink. All right, that's a good call, sir. Then finally, the engineering compartment. I've been noticing that it's getting quite warm in there. Would you mind if I cooled it down by turning the engines off?
You can handle the heat.
Well, at least you've got one piece of sense in you. All right, that's fine. All right, I'll get off onto the city with you, you young scamp. Go and enjoy yourself. But don't get too drunk, all right?
No promises.
All
And
right.
I flip the gold coin towards him.
Oh, well, we've got a rich one here, he says, shifting over to Quallen. As Quallen stops shaking from laughter, hiding his laughter there. Okay, so the four of you, where are you heading exactly? You're wanting to go shopping, is that right, Con? Blackson?
Yeah.
I'm just along for the ride, really.
Okay.
So I would try to get, I guess, I don't know, what would Drow need? I guess like some produce, right? Mostly like wine, maybe suggest wine. We feel close enough to it that they would have it, and other things that would sell with the Drow for a tidy profit.
All right. Things
Maybe
you
fish,
basically, things that you think about possibly would be mostly things that grow in sunlight. So yes, wines, things that require crops and fresh produce and the like.
Mm-hmm.
So you're starting to shop around for that. Con, you're tagging along. Our two captains, Maris and Jorek, as you're passing through the streets, you can see that Dwestland Border was originally designed for dwarves. There's low entrance ways. The steps are all slightly lower than they would be in a human city. Maris, for you, it's quite a nice relief. Although the academy has been designed with all species in mind, sometimes they underestimate just how short a gnome really is. So the tables are just a bit too high, but here everything seems to be roughly the right shape and size. The dwarves, however, are not complete idiots. They realize that they are one of the most southern cities in all of Braxia, and that trade coming through here would be fairly important. So they have accommodated for the taller species. You can see every now and again, every second or third building has been reconstructed to have a higher doorway or an archway that's been carved into the older traditional lintels.
So if I see this right, we are now chunk-free on the crew, eh?
You are indeed. Suddenly realize that no one has to duck. Wow.
As you can see, cadets, we are responsible for maintaining the vessel. That means repairs, supplies, the whole bang of it. Therefore, you need to be comfortable with being able to operate in a multitude of urban settings across the globe and be able to acquire necessary supplies at the minimum expense. Blackston, of course, is the quartermaster of the Windswift, and this duty normally falls to him. Likewise, should any of you receive such a responsibility, please note that there is more to it than just visiting market stalls. Local knowledge is very important.
And I just look at Con and say, yes, and if you want, you can go drinking now or have a nice evening. Just be ready for tomorrow, and we can lecture you then. Right, Con?
Yes, I think we can clock off now.
All right. What do the two of you do?
What is it that we're shopping for? Specifically. I ask Con or Blackston, just straight out.
Well, general supplies that we need to repair the ship, if need be, and also, well, we are going to visit the Drow. We have some business there, so like, things that they wouldn't have, and kind of look and see if there's like a dwarf in hearing range, and say like, since they're now underground in the former dwarvish territories, then that would include general things that would grow.
Okay. So Jorek is kind of well versed in history and cultures. Is there anything he could do to help Blackston find something suitable for
Sure,
Drows?
give me a history check.
As you wish.
Want me to roll one too?
That is...
Yeah, you can roll one, absolutely, Blackston. Although you've kind of hit on the things that you want to take down. So.
Yeah. So,
That's 22.
Yeah, I did 19.
All right. Well, between the two of you, the Dwaslan border people, apart from the supposedly good bakeries that they have, because of their proximity to the glacier, they are also very, very well known for what is known as ice glass, which is a very highly, highly compacted form of ice, which, because of the magical fields that permeate all of Braxia, have actually hardened to the point that they will no longer melt under any temperature whatsoever. The Dwaslan border dwarves head out occasionally to mine this stuff. So it's pretty rare, pretty unique for the area.
So what I would then try to search with, like sharing this with each other, I basically don't want like tier 1 supplies. I want industrial goods more than just like raw goods, because they get more money, right? So maybe some seeking out some jewelers who work with this things, or maybe some weaponsmiths, if that is more the application that it would be used to.
Right, absolutely, and it can be used for either application.
So yeah, I have about 3,000 gold to spend. So
okay, so are you sending these two off to go and find?
If they want to work, I mean, I gave them the option of having a nice evening. So I mean,
We do have a meeting to attend, so it might be useful to get the cadets to do the running around.
Right. So I will go shopping, and you meet this dwarf Lachlan.
Okay.
So, well, whatever you wish to do your own thing, or go with Con or me, it's your choice.
All right, Maris, what are you choosing?
I'm not the kind of drinking, so I rather do the shopping with you, sir.
All
and
right.
I have some paper to buy because I lost it.
Right, taking notes. Very good, very good.
Yeah. Notes,
all right, so
yes.
you're going to head off with Blackston. Jorek?
Blackston, do you have what you need? Or otherwise I will go with Con. Sounds
I think
interesting.
between the three of us, Jasani is with us, right?
Yeah.
So between the three of us, I think we're covered.
Then have a nice evening. And I go with Con.
All right, you're going with Con. Sekhet-Hotep-Et, you and Naksun Hashtahep arrive at this bar. There's this large head of an aquatic creature looming out of the front of it. You initially think that perhaps it's a mounting or a carving of some kind, but as you approach it, its jaws slowly close and it looks down at you and then goes back up again, and you realize that it's this large mechanical construct which is on rather bad gears because it looks down at you and then it cranks back up into place and then looks down at you and then cranks up into place. The effect, though, is quite endearing, quite charming, as you head into the Bronze Jaws is the name of the place.
Nice.
Naxun looks around for a table. He finds one. After you.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Yes. You take a seat. There's several characters sitting in the bar. They don't really pay you too much attention. And he goes off to the bar itself. He then catches your attention from the bar. And
any ABC, anything but that.
Okay. He goes back to the barman. Whilst you're sitting there, this very tall human wearing a rather heavy rain cloak moves up to your table and looks at you. I can't help but notice that you were the one who sailed the ship into harbour.
I don't know if I actually sailed it into harbour, almost crashed it into harbour would probably be a more accurate description of my skills, really. But I knew what I was doing.
Yes, I did not particularly want to mention the fact that we heard that you docked at port rather than watched as well. Is it your, is he your husband? He says, indicating Naxun, who's sort of counting on his hand various bits and pieces.
No.
Your brother, then?
No.
But he owns the ship.
No. Do I know you?
My turn. No. Well, not yet, anyway, he says as he takes a seat next to you. The name is Captain Seal. I happen to be looking for a ship. You happen to have a ship, or at least have been given permission to sail a ship. Is that right?
I was told to sail the ship.
I don't understand.
I was told by the other captain to sail the ship.
So there is a captain of the vessel. So are you
I'm cadetting at the moment.
I see. Is your vessel for hire?
Oh, I don't think so. You could try asking one of them if you want to, but I really don't think it's for hire. I don't know how these things work. Ask the guy at the bar.
He looks over at Naxun, who's now counting out coins and has two drinks. One of the drinks is steaming, and the other one is changing colors periodically as he's counting out silver coins. I see. Would you give me a tour of your ship?
I feel very interested in the ship.
It's an interesting ship, is it not?
It's a very interesting ship. I almost died on that ship. I think I might get into more trouble if I let you go on the ship. You probably would have been better off asking me after I'd had a few drinks. I probably shouldn't have told you that.
I see. Well, in that case, then, well, I think we might just have a conversation and one or two drinkies. Then. All right. Dorskiv, where are you heading?
I'm heading up to the Capitol building to go speak with the head of the city.
So are you're heading to go and speak to the mayor, or are you going to go and chat to Lachlan?
The mayor.
You're heading to the mayor, all right?
Yes.
Well, you make your way up the multitude of steps, slowly ascending the very square-like structures towards the central keep of Dwaslan border. And when you get to the second bailey, so the second ring of walls within the city itself, a rather stout-looking dwarf steps up in your pathway in front of these large gates. Good evening, sir. What is it that you're looking to do here?
Dorskiv Volokra. I am looking for some lost brethren.
Oh, I see. You're from that side, are you? Oh.
Yes. I want to say that I have Heart of Darkness, by the way.
All right. All right. But why do you want to go up into the big house?
I believe if my brothers are anywhere, they would have at least gone to some official to state their presence there.
Aye, true enough. Any decent dwarf would do the same.
Yes.
All right. I'll come with you, but I don't think you'll be able to see the Lord himself. He's awfully busy. But I'll take you to the Seneschal. The Seneschal will know who you're talking about. What's the name of your brother?
I pull out a huge list of all of the brothers who I'm looking for currently.
That's a whole clan's worth.
Yes, I know.
And you lost them all.
Yes.
Oh, I understand. Where did you lose them, lad?
In a cave over in the west.
Oh, you were in the Underdark.
Indeed.
Well, I can't say we've got much dealings with the drow here. We've been spared that unfortunate outcome. All right. Well, I'll take you through to the Lord. He'll want to know about that.
Thank you.
That is quite a long list of brothers. How long ago was it?
Around 50 years ago.
Ah, that soon. That's tough. All right. Well, let's see if his lordship can help you in any way. He's got no love for them Underdark thieves. He says,
stealing friends, brothers, and keeps.
Aye, but not for long. You mark my words. There's a reckoning coming. They well deserve it. He leads you into the main keep itself. That brings us to Con and Jorek. You are heading towards Lachlan.
Presumably we know where Lachlan is supposed to be.
So generally speaking, in major capitals like this, there's usually what they call an embassy or not a safe house, because it's a little bit more public than that. They're legacy buildings where in the past people could go and report suspicious behavior. They've kind of fallen out of use because, well, not a lot of people report behavior anymore, but they are still used as places where people can meet and that kind of thing. So you head straight through to that building. It's a fairly squat structure, not particularly exciting in comparison to the rest of the architecture around you. It's very functional. And as you step inside, you're greeted by a young assistant who looks at the two of you. Immediately you show your sigil on your palm, and he takes you straight through to Lachlan, who is this rather tall dwarf, very swarthy features, very sort of dark skin, very dark brown. His beard is incredibly white. He's been out in the sun for a very long time. And he looks at the two of you as you arrive. You can see his vision is not perhaps what it should be. And you can take a seat. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming through.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a long time since we've had an elf down here. I'll tell you that much. It's very, very good of you to come. I see the order's recruiting everyone now. Yes, I suppose that's about that.
We all have something to add.
Oh, I'm sure we do. Sure we do. Absolutely. Yes. Aye. Well, at least you're the right colour, aren't you? Yes. Good. So, yes, you've come in from headquarters. Yes. Not much to report, I'm afraid to say. It's all very, very calm, very quiet here. Absolutely.
It's not entirely bad news.
No. We heard about the Gamspire and, of course, Auchbech. Very, very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. But nothing like that happening here. Absolutely assure you. Everything is shipshape and above board and absolutely fine. Have you been assigned to our sector, young elf?
I am currently a cadet in the order.
Oh, what a relief. That means you could be assigned anywhere in Braxia. Isn't that wonderful? Very, very nice. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Grand. Great. So, you can both give me insight checks, please.
A bit of training now that things have quietened down a bit. Insight.
11.
That will be 23.
Yes, always nice to have someone go through training, some sort of training, any kind of training whatsoever. Absolutely, yes. Good. All right. Well, if we're done, then I'll say my farewells to you then.
So officially, there is nothing to report.
Why do you phrase it like that exactly, sir? Officially, I mean.
Well, it's quite a brief chat, really. We've only just arrived. You seem to be devoid of any kind of news. This is unusual.
It's Twaslin border, sir. There's nothing really happening here. We're at the south end of the south. There's nothing, absolutely nothing here.
Yes, in my experience, it's exactly that sort of environment that plotters like to seek out.
Well,
You seem nervous, sir.
I am? No, it's we very seldom get such capable and prestigious visitors this far south. So, yes. Are there usually 4 captains with a ship? I only count 2.
You count 1. We are...
Yes, cadet in training, I forgot, yes.
The other captains are engaged in ship business.
Right.
As am I.
Yes, of course, absolutely, yes.
I like to make things official. So, as we were saying, you have nothing at all irregular to report whatsoever. Correct?
No, nothing irregular to report.
I will, of course, be lodging an official report for this sector based on your feedback here. I trust that I can do so in confidence.
Yes, in confidence, absolutely. Yes, I'll come back to you. Blackston and Maryse, you're busy going around shopping, trying to find various artifacts and things. Is there anything specific? I know you're looking for the ice glass that is so prized in the city. It's easy enough to find.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of money to throw around, or I have a little bit of money to throw around here. So I wanted to use it as weight in like bartering with them. So yeah, if we come across like a jeweler who's like, has something that I would be interested in, say like, well, your competitor over there, he had something very similar than you.
All right. So that's what you're doing. You're looking into that. Maris, are you trying to assist in any way? Blackston is doing quite a lot.
Yeah, of course, when there is like commercial things and I help the birds. And is there any history fact that I know about the war against the dragon in this city that may be interesting?
Sure. You can give me a history check.
So that's 21.
21. The only thing that strikes you as unusual about Dwaslan Border's history is that in the chronicles that you've read as part of your bardic training, Dwaslan Border's name never comes up as a dwarven refuge. And although that doesn't seem to be unusual, the great dwarven cities that populate the western side of this continent all had an above and a below. Now, the below was taken over by the Drow during the last of the dragons to be defeated. Dwaslan Border doesn't really make much mention of any city being taken over by the dwarves. And now that you think about that, you realize that there's very little mentioned about Dwaslan Border in totality in the great sagas. It's almost as if it was skipped out of history. Not entirely. There's one or two mentions here or there that they contributed troops and that kind of thing. But in terms of the Drow underside being used or lost to the Drow, you can't recall anything specific being mentioned. And the dwarves were fairly complete in their listing of grievances against the Drow people. As a matter of fact, they list almost 48 separate citadels which they claim rightful ownership over and to have lost. And Dwaslan Border is not one of them.
So I'm like, Blackstone, did you know that this city doesn't appear anywhere in the history of the war, the dragons? That's odd, don't you think?
Maybe it's new? Newly founded?
No, historically, Dwaslan Border was controlled by a black dragon, and he had it constructed well into his early reign.
Well, before the dragon was there, obviously.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and how is this information helping me right now with this fine gentleman?
Not right now.
But
yeah, let's buy more stuff.
All right. You notice that of all of the stalls that you pass, none of them are selling anything other than very local produce, very, very local materials. There are some stores that are selling in bulk, which is what you would expect, but very few stores for other races, for humans, for example. In your time here, you haven't seen any Cathar at all.
Okay, so you said that they were aware that there's like trading going through at least this town because they kind of restructured some of the housing and such.
Correct.
So I also would be interested in just like if there are other like tradesmen and merchants going around. I could speak with them and kind of trying to strike a deal with them as well. If there's any golden nuggets to be found there.
Right. Okay, so that's what you two are trying to do. I'm going to do a skill challenge for everybody, please, as we move through. So this is where everyone gets to roll a die in the round, but you'll see how it plays out. So between the six of you, one of you needs to please give me a perception check. Any one of you. All right, you're muted, I think.
Sorry, try not to cough into the microphone.
Yeah.
I can do that.
All right, your perception check.
10.
10. Okay. You are sitting at your table whilst this gentleman is inveigling his way into your company. And when Naxwin returns, he is outwardly depressed that he is no longer alone with you, but rallies wonderfully and accepts the man that you have obviously started to talk to, and sits down and starts chatting with him as well. How many drinks do you allow this stranger to buy you? Because the first one goes down very, very quickly. He buys the second round. He offers you a third round.
Oh, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think I should go back. I think I should go back to the ship with him, but not you.
He buys a third round. That kind of response, absolutely. All right, then I need an insight check, please, from anybody else.
I'll do that.
All right.
Natural 20.
Natural 20. Look at that. That's a success.
Show off.
Doesn't happen very often.
It really doesn't for you, no. The conversation with the dwarf, you realize, is going in circles. He is adamant that there is absolutely nothing wrong, but in his adamancy that there is nothing wrong, you start to suspect that there is definitely something wrong and that he is just trying to avoid saying it or speaking of it. You're not entirely sure what that is. Okay, then please, I need a deception from anybody else.
Finally, I can do that.
Aha.
He just outed himself.
16.
16, okay, that's a success. All right, so you need 2 more successes before 3 more failures. So as this dwarf is emphatic in his denial of anything out of the ordinary, you strike up the option that because you are a cadet, you'd like to see around. They can show you the buildings. That causes the dwarf to panic even more, and his stertorous responses become even more garbled as he speaks about construction and repair and refurbishment and the like. I would now please like a intimidation check from anybody. So basically that's from Dorskiv or from Blackston or Maurice.
I can try it.
All right.
With the charisma.
Yeah.
So that's 12.
12. You see the challenge with being at the same height as the dwarves and then having Blackston next to you is when you try and impress upon them that Blackston is an important person and that they really, really should capitulate and give him whatever it is that he wants at whatever price, because they should just be grateful that he's even talking to them. You find that there's a certain resistance to that approach, and that ends most of the conversations rather poorly, unfortunately, no matter your diligence. Okay. I would then ask, please, for a nature check from either Blackston or from Dorskiv.
I got it. 7. I got it.
This is nature.
3.
This is nature.
Watch her moving.
All right, so you are you've taken up to the lord of the Grassland border, and as you're talking to him, you start to get this real sense that they are interested in helping you only if you're interested in joining them for their cause. And their cause sounds fairly just, but a little bit illegal. That's kind of what you're picking out from that. And then finally, to finish off this round of rolls, if Blackston, if you could please give me a persuasion check.
Oh, yes. Oh, very good. 15.
15, absolutely, that's a success. So you've had 3 successes and 3 failures. So you need one of either to complete this. You are using the gnome, who is sort of banding out words and using big flowery phrases to try and intimidate everybody to give you a decent purchase. You're using a a little more tact than perhaps is on offer. And what you're starting to realize is that the traders in this town, dwarvish traders, are reluctant to trade with you very favorably. But when you approach non-dwarvish traders, and they're not a lot, they will trade with you fairly favorably, but still not in a very good way, because what you're starting to realize is there's a certain amount of animosity that Dwaslan border dwarves hold for pretty much everybody else. All right, so this means now from anybody, I would please need a perception check. If it succeeds, you pass the skill challenge. If it fails, you fail the skill challenge. So no pressure.
Pressure's on.
I can do that. I can try.
You can try.
Please, I've already rolled my ones. Don't do it. That's 13.
13?
13.
All right, that is just a pass. Just a pass. And so the results of that, you insist on a tour of the embassy here, and the dwarf eventually relents. All right, fine, I'll tell you. There's no point. I'm not going to hide. There's no point. This is not treason on my behalf, Captain. I want that.
It's good to
Sit up straight at that. Lean forward slightly.
You see, sir, the thing is, and I would have warned you, but they didn't tell me that. How could I know that you were coming? I mean, there's no way that I could have known.
Get to the point.
It appears that the Lord of Dwaslan Border is, and this is not treason on my, it's got nothing to do with the dragons much.
Spit it out.
Well, you see, sir, the thing is, and I'm cutting to the bar where Captain Seal is sitting there with the third round of drinks. So how about that tour of your ship? You see, I've been commissioned, I've been commissioned to investigate good vessels like yours.
I turn to the other.
To Naxon?
Yep. And I say to him and to Jetty, I don't think I should trust this man, and I'm pretty pissed.
Naxon is there looking at you. Your eyes are like the desert sunrise.
I'm not sure who's most drunk.
I don't think you're going to help me, are you? I should put... I'm really pants at flirting. I wouldn't bother.
I don't know what that means, but it is as if the winds on the sands across the deserts of time mean your name.
You what?
I think he said something about the sands of time flowing, and this is the days of our lives. But I think a brief tour of the ship would be in order.
I'll strike you a deal. We'll go find Con, because he probably is... Yeah, I just don't want to get into trouble. Can we go find Con?
Is he on your ship? Yes, let's go and have a look on your ship. You see, I need your ship because... and we'll cut to Dorskiv. The Lord looks you up and down. So, are you in or are you out?
Anything to find my brothers.
Well, that's the kind of answer that we're looking for, lad. Now, what about the business of you being part of the Order, though? There's that whole oath to join.
Dwarves first before anything else.
Dwarves first before anything else. You see, it's that kind of mentality that we need here in Dwaslan Border.
You racist bastard.
So, if we were to ask you to, well, how can we put it? Ignore the orders of your order, you wouldn't have a problem with that?
No, I don't have a problem with that.
I think you're my kind of dwarf. All right.
Find my brothers.
Aye. We'll try and find your brothers for you. I could use an extra 50 men. You see, the reason is Blackson and Maris, you are pulled aside by a trader, a human trader, who looks as if he's seen a ghost. I couldn't help but overhear you're trying to buy supplies.
Yes.
Yes. I'm not entirely sure if you're aware, but the city is about to the city is about to go to war.
Okay.
Against who?
Well, I only noticed that you happen to have a ship in harbour, and I'd rather like to book passage on it. As a matter of fact, if we can leave now, I heard on the wind the invasion is planned to start this evening.
Where do you want to go?
Anywhere, actually, just not here. The dwarvish lord has made it quite clear that anyone who remains in harbour after dark is going to get conscripted, and I rather don't like the Underdark.
We need to find the others quite fast.
Why?
Because it's... What time is it now?
It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, so we have plenty of time.
Well, about an hour and a half to sunset.
Okay. Not that dandy then.
They wouldn't dare to lay their fingers on a vessel of the order.
I don't think you've met the Lord of Dwaslan Border.
No, I don't. He hasn't met me yet either. Well,
So
thank you for your information.
Can I book passage on your ship then?
Can I kind of gaze if he's just afraid? Or if he is
No, he
a
genuinely...
spy in like a wolf in sheep's coat, basically.
Well, give me an insight check.
Okay. Because I cannot gaze that from just what you brought. 19.
19, yeah, absolutely. You can see that he has the look about him that the backpack that he's carrying has been filled to capacity to carry absolutely
So he wanted to get away.
last thing that he could possibly and he does seem quite desperate to get away.
I look at him and say, well, we can bring you over to the next settlement of the dwarves, certainly.
Oh, well,
That's me asking, were there other ships in dock that were not dwarvish? Like you said, like the
there was Sekhet and Chung
Chung.
ships as well, yes.
I would speak with them about that. So why didn't you ask any of the other captains?
I'm afraid that living in Dwaslan Border has made me rather trust only my own kind, if you take my meaning.
Well, then you will be very sad to see that we have many people on our board.
Oh, I don't care. It doesn't bother me, but I at least we understand each other a little bit better anyway. My Sekhet is rather poor and, well...
Very well. You will understand that you're joining a vessel of the order, which means we will need to put you in brig because of security reasons.
Well, as long as I'm not being arrested, then I suppose that's
No,
acceptable.
you're just not free to move on the ship as long as you stay aboard.
Then that's absolutely fine. Rather that than downstairs. Absolutely.
Odd.
And on that note, we have to come to an end. So thank you for watching our first edition as our crew start to uncover something that's going on in the city of Dwaslan Border. Now, we would ask you to stay for the review that we do. We always do a review after the show where we just talk very briefly about our experience within the episode. Of course, this being a first episode for a lot of the players, that there's lots going on and lots to think about. Anyway, if you're not going to stay for the review, please leave your comments below as to which of the characters, perhaps, that we've only just caught glimpses of, you'd like to see on the Windswift. You don't have to leave any long messages, just leave the character's name that you'd like to see. And of course, if you head over to the Facebook page in about a week's time, or 2 weeks' time actually, we'll put up a list of everybody, and then you can make your choices there as well. So you don't have to worry about names and things now if you don't want to. Anyway, let everybody know, give them their support for stepping forward and being part of these auditions, as I don't think it's been very easy to suddenly land in the middle of the Windswift, and certainly it hasn't been easy to fly the ship by the looks of things.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you for watching. Let's say for the review, we're going to go straight into the review now. I'll do Dice of Destiny to tell us who we're going to start with, and we're starting with number 3. That is Jorek. So Tobias, tell us, what did you think? Bit tricky first.
Very tricky to get into, and it's also very tricky to just get into a character that you've only written, really, and that you've only thought about. It takes quite a few sessions, really, before the character sticks, especially if you have an accent. It takes a while before that sticks and becomes a part of the character. So it was fun, though, especially just opening up with this gigantic fail. That was a lot of fun, because it just destroyed my character completely. He's arrogant, he's very sure of himself, and it just completely screws up, and he just didn't know how to handle that at all.
It's karma for you.
Yeah. Other than that, I could have taken more room, interjected with things, and taking more space in conversations, but that's also something that you need to get used to. Other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed the session. It was fun, and it was a lot of fun playing with all of you. So, yeah, lovely. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Then over to you, Jean. How did you enjoy the set? Did you enjoy it? I mean, is it too soon?
No, it was really, really nice. Like, it's my actual really first role play when we were actually role playing, because my old game master was just about the rules. So yeah, it was really nice to have to fit in the story, even though it was not easy, obviously. When you get attacked by a snake and you don't have weapons or something. But yeah, it was really a lot of fun, even though you were talking with other players. There was always the story and the acting moving on. So yeah, really nice. Thank you.
And I have to ask, is it a ukulele that you keep?
Yeah, it's a ukulele.
Do you play the ukulele?
Kind of. A little bit.
I recognize that.
You're a bard. Lovely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Sophie, how did you, how apart from getting drunk, throwing up, and generally
Dying.
It was an interesting start for my character, I feel. It was very varied. But yeah, it was good fun as a session. Hey, and it's always nice to finally get a chance to play with Jonathan, as normally he's my GM. So that was fun too.
Right, so there are limited interactions, but absolutely.
You'll fit right in with the dying. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm good at
We do.
dying.
It happens a lot in Windswift.
Absolutely. And Sebastian?
I enjoyed it a lot. I've been concepting this character for like a year now, and seeing him in action is actually really good. And I'll use him no matter what, or copy his character over. And I'm really, really happy we went to Dwarf City so that background can be
Right.
so people can see the background come to fruition instead of just knowing it. And otherwise, carrying the team, not getting hit by anything, killing some stuff, grabbing other things, getting puked on, just what we dwarves do. And I like the pact that I'm able, the character is easy for me to get into because I kind of like relate with that kind of like loss of a lot of people. So that's an easy, do anything for your family kind of stuff. So he's a very easy character to play overall. So, very fun.
Right, lovely, great. Yes, and the Westland border just happened to be on the map as I looked over as to where the recruiters go. Jono, what are your thoughts on this motley crew of cadets getting drunk, making pacts, swearing away the order, running around, crashing your ship, trying to hack into your ship, throwing spears into your ship?
Hey, I was aiming for the snake.
Well, first off, I had great fun today with all of you. So the first thing that dawned on me after the first 5-10 minutes of the game was this whole choosing new players is going to be hard. It's going to be hard. So I've had great fun. I thought you all brought some unique character to your characters in the short space that you had an opportunity to do so. You all stood out as your individual characters, which I thought was great. And you know, we deliberately, I think, Simon and I didn't do much in terms of conspiring beforehand, but I think we both naturally fell into that. Let's let you guys handle most of the action, and we'll sort of, I, for my part, step in and try and stop anyone from dying, because I do have that convenient, you know, remote healing spell. I don't have to touch you. But yeah, I had great fun. I thought it went rather well.
Absolutely. And Simon,
Yeah.
Mr. I stand back and watch cadets getting mauled by snake. And
Well, it's just a flesh wound, right?
And it was very true to Blackson's character. So
Yeah, I would have intervened if it would have gotten out of hand, but other than that, I mean, if you want to learn to swim, just like throw him into the sea, right?
absolutely.
And it's a dangerous job, so I mean, there was a safety net with Con and I. Maybe mine was a little bit wider, but yes. So going through the story, yeah. Well, it's a first session, sets things up, so I'm looking forward to where this might lead. Although there is stuff that we wanted to do anyhow from before, so let's see how this intertwines. And by player, yeah, I enjoyed. I'm pleasantly surprised because I recently had like a lot of people I needed to go through it for my own game, and yeah, so I'm pleasantly surprised with that, with each one of you having like a positive experience with each one of you, and well, yeah, gonna suck that we cannot take everybody, and I mean there will be more in the future, so yay.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think that's high praise coming from you, Simon, because yes, you mentioned you've been through quite arduous audition trials.
Over 50 people, yeah.
Absolutely.
oh my god.
I didn't play with everybody.
Correct. So obviously from my challenge, whenever you've got a new group and you're bringing people together for the first time, trying to assess who fits, who doesn't fit, who is someone that you would want to play with. I mean, there's so many different layers, so many different questions that you have to almost try and suss out as the game goes along. You listen to how people respond to things, whether they interject, whether they don't interject. And you've got to sit back and go, well, do I like him or her because he said this and then she said that and then he did this and he did that? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And
Most of which cannot be answered by 2 hours. Also.
Absolutely. And when you've got 2 hours, I mean, maybe a normal session is 4 hours and you think about it. Anyway, next week we're meeting another 4 players who will be joining us, and we'll be running through a second or different part of the adventure. And I know that the adventures seem to be quite, we've got a bit of combat, we've got a bit of dialogue, but really those are where you need to test to see how players handle things. And I think today, to everybody who joined in, none of you shouted over each other. You've been all very, very polite. You've rolled with it as we've done things. So that's been an absolute pleasure. I had a lot of fun, and I hope that you did too, watching as well. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. To everybody who participated so far, as Con and Blackston have said, as Jono and Simon have said, it has been an absolute pleasure playing with you guys. I hope to do it again in the future. And yes, we will see who comes through at the end as fitting into the Windswift as best as possible. But until next time, thank you for watching. Goodbye from me and everybody sitting at this table.